What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Justin here. As always, guys, thanks for stopping by and clicking on today's video. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Today we're going to be talking about Malignant. Malignant. I don't know why I keep thinking about South Park every time I say the name of this movie.
No, they're ignorant. That's ignorant.
Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. I post very regularly, and in fact, I just posted a massive Shudder recommendation video that I would love for you guys to check out. Over 50 recommendations of TV shows, movies, podcasts, series, documentaries. So if you've been looking into Shudder but you're not quite sure, or you just need some good horror recommendations, that video is fantastic for that. I've also started a couple other series recently. So guys, check out my recent videos, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. But now let's get into today's video. Now, if you would have told me before seeing this movie that James Wan's Malignant was going to be the most original and surprising horror movies of the year, I straight up wouldn't have believed you. But now here we are. Let's talk about James Wan's Malignant. Being that my tastes and my sensibilities don't usually fall in line with much of the mainstream big budget horror that's pushed to mass audiences, especially in theaters, the stuff by James Wan, directors like that, the extended Conjuring universes, Insidiouses, all of these sort of mainstream movies that a lot of people enjoy, I just tend to not enjoy them quite as much. I'm not some sort of an edgy horror hipster that doesn't like anything. I like a lot of new stuff, but movies like this just generally don't appeal to me, especially after seeing that trailer. Although I think I know why this movie was advertised like it was, but that trailer, honestly, I hated that trailer. I hated every moment of that trailer. It looked like the epitome of every tropey, mainstream cliche horror movie, like everything crammed into one. The long-haired, stringy, backwards, crab-walking horror movies that I am just so tired of seeing. And there's a particular moment in that trailer that really turned me off when the girl is sitting in the kitchen as the whole kitchen just CGIs around her. I was just like, fuck this. I will never watch this movie. But then over the next few days, as all the reviews started coming out and people talking about it on Instagram and Facebook, and I just had to see what all the fuss is about. Why is everybody talking about Malignant? And after seeing it, I understand why. I finally gave in to the hype. I'm sitting on my couch, I'm watching TV. It's 1 or 2 in the morning, and I saw that it was available on HBO Max. I pushed play, expecting the worst, and honestly, within the first few minutes of the movie, in the opening sequence, I was like, oh, you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention, James Wan. You slippery little bastard. From the first few minutes, I sensed this movie had the potential to be different. I will have spoilers here. It started out bloody, it started out weird, and when they showed that little silhouette of Gabriel, being that I watched it at home, I was able to pause it and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I just could not help of being reminded of all of the old sort of trash movies, honestly, that I used to watch in the late 80s and the early 90s, especially that 90s Roger Corman stuff that harkens back to like Roger Corman's The Unborn 2, movies that are really that absurd with the practical effects and high concepts that are just ridiculous. And I absolutely loved this movie for all of the risks and chances that it takes. I do have some complaints that I feel like could have made this movie so much better had they done a little differently, but overall, this movie reminded me of the ridiculous horror movies that I used to record on VHS off HBO back in the day, your Pumpkinheads, your Creature Features, movies like that. I was really shocked by how far this movie went, not in a super disturbing way, although more casual horror fans may be a little horrified. Honestly, just how far they push this concept and how to a mainstream audience this would be absolutely completely in the what the fuck is going on realm. And even me being a horror fan, I was still like, this movie is in the what the fuck is going on. I can just see the sort of average moviegoer being drawn into what seems like a pretty safe sort of generic horror movie by the trailer, and by the end of it being like traumatized or something, like some wife telling her husband, hey Rick, there's this new little spooky movie by James Wan, the guy who did the little Waterman movies. You talking about Aquaman? Yeah, the guy, Jacob Mimosa. Leviosa, he's in it. James Wan, he's got a new horror movie. Let's go see it. And just by the end of the movie being just traumatized. I think they were very strategic with the trailer to make it look really unassuming so that when you see this movie, you are just absolutely shocked by what you're seeing. And with that, they achieved something really original with a crazy premise. Now, being that this is a spoiler review, I'm not going to go super in-depth into the plot. I'm just going to sort of talk about the movie. So the whole concept of this parasitic twin was just, I absolutely loved it. The whole idea of this parasitic twin that was essentially shoved back in her head is just so insane. I loved the concept. They really did a great job. And what's also interesting is you get a little bit of like every era of horror. You have some 70s style camera work, the close-ups of the eyes. You have a lot of like synthy 80s style like driving rhythms in the soundtrack, but then also you'll have like 2000s like techno electronic style music. It was kind of a mashup. The tone was a little strange. I felt like sometimes there was too many different tones and there was too many different types of eras going on, but ultimately it worked for me. One of the things that stands out with it that's a problem with the whole movie though is just the extreme heavy reliance on CGI. I wish there wasn't so much CGI. They could have got some stunt people to do all those different acrobatic things that Gabriel does in the body of our main character. And that's also another thing that didn't really work for me, why this thing seemed to have like superhuman strength and abilities, able to jump down buildings and fly across things like she's some sort of supernatural being. When the cop is chasing her throughout the cities and she's jumping from staircase to stairwell and scaling walls and shit, that was a little ridiculous. This movie honestly really did surprise me. This reminds me of a lot of my comments in my Candyman video because I had said I didn't have any interest in seeing it and I ended up just seeing it begrudgingly and then I didn't like it. So they're like, yeah, you went into it not liking it, so of course you didn't like it, blah, 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 blah. This shows you that your mind can be changed. You can go in with one expectation and leave the movie thinking something completely different. This movie completely surprised me. It won me over. It really, really did. And a couple Easter eggs that you guys might not have noticed before I forget is Zoe Bell's in this movie in the prison sequence when she goes in the jail and there's that sort of butchy mullet wearing prisoner that's picking fights with her. That's Zoe Bell, who did pretty much all of the stunt work in Kill Bill, and she was also in Death Proof, the one that rides the top of the car in Death Proof. That's Zoe Bell, so that was really cool to see her in there. Also, another Easter egg, we have Paula Marshall, who some of you who I always remember from Hellraiser 3. She is the hypnotist who they bring in to sort of talk to the main character to sort of unlock those memories. That's Paula Marshall. Beautiful. I've always had the biggest crush on her. That was really cool to see her in Malignant. This movie really honestly really surprised me. I loved everything that this movie did. Now, I don't like the CGI, I don't like the superhuman crazy thing that this character was doing, but overall I really did enjoy. And I'll tell you what, the CGI effect of Gabriel, the way it was all shiny and slimy, it looked honestly really practical. They may have used a mix between practical and digital. The only time you could really tell the CGI was when the mouth moved and the eyes moved a little bit, but otherwise it looked pretty damn good. And they definitely left it open for some sort of a sequel. I mean, Gabriel's still chilling in the back of her head, and it still bugs me how they didn't cut the teeth out in the face. Like, I understood they had to keep some stuff in, but to shove a whole fully working face in the back of her head was a little sketched out. Another thing this reminds me of that really old like super rare medical case where that guy had basically a twin that shared the same mechanics in his head. When the guy opened his mouth, his sort of twin would move at the exact same time. It was really, really bizarre. It reminded me a lot of that. So guys, that is my review of Malignant. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Go check out Malignant. It's on HBO Max right now. You can stream it at home for free if you have HBO Max. It's not one of those add-on like premium things where you have to like an early access. It's not one of those. You just turn on HBO Max and it's there. So yeah, that's it, guys. I think we're done here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Stay weird. Remember to always be yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Perhaps the most startling discovery is the physical connection between the action of both heads. Medical teams suspect that Chang's twin is an intergrowth. Chang's twin, in fact, has its own primitive brain.